Hi. Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting to have the problem of talking about reality, what is real in 15 minutes. So I'm going to try to kind of do that. Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about fake news or whether we live in a simulation, because that's, we can pass the night when we're drinking beers talking about that. But I'm actually going to talk more about things and fake things, real things, fictional things. Because that's pretty much what I do. Actually, one of these is my favorite objects. One of them is a copy. It's up to you to decide which one. But, anyway. So I think it's interesting to talk about fiction, and especially nowadays, because I come from a country that is kind of truly embraced this kind of post-true nature of today. We actually invented the concept of flexible obligation for vaccines. So it's kind of like, we used to be cool, but not that much anymore. So anyway, I'm still kind of hopeful about the future somehow. I'm really interested to look at the future more as how does the future becomes real? So how do things transition from becoming technological dreams or things that really people hope for into reality? I'm also very excited about looking at how certain things are extremely stubborn throughout history. Like how many times do we need to want to have self-driving cars or smart fridges, and still they didn't really come, and maybe that's better. But actually, I'm more interested in designers that never really made things, or kind of people that had visions that were kind of weird. In the 60s in Italy, we had a lot of these people. This is actually Hans Rucker from Austria. And I think these are actually cooler vision of the future. They're kind of weird, ironic, and that's kind of also what I hope to build. So I kind of like to look at how the future leaks into the present. So it's kind of like how things exist, maybe future things that exist in reality, and how this reality manifests and the future manifests in different parts of the world. And so what I do is I kind of call them real fictional things, because they are objects that are kind of the simple objects of the future, and I kind of trying to build them for real. I mean, I didn't do a whole process like Uber, but I also try to get very, very nasty comments online from people that they kind of insult me, or why the fuck do you build this? And I think that's kind of the nice thing, is getting online hate is actually a very nice thing for whoever does the fictional products. But I also try to build them for real, so that actually people can try them and figure out whether this is kind of a future that they want to live in. And I'm also really, really interested in the kind of the extras of the future, like all the people that are sitting on the side, the kind of bored people about there's going to be real future people with real future problems that will be really fucking bored about real future things. And I think that's kind of the people that I really like to think about, street cleaners of the smart city or whoever else. And I also really like the details of the future. I think this is one of the best pieces of fiction for me, which is the toilet description, or zero-gravity toilet description in 2001: Space Odyssey, which I think is the best piece of sci-fi ever made, because someone actually passed the time in writing the whole 10 steps of how to shit in zero gravity. I mean, it's amazing. So anyway, I'm part of a collective called Automato Farm, where we basically try to figure out how to build these kind of fictional things to talk about the future. And as I said, I'm figuring, I don't know, also Lisa Mosconi, somehow Italians end up doing food. I don't know why. I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, happens. But I actually live in China, in Shanghai in particular, which I think is one of the most interesting places to think about the future, and especially to think about this kind of weird dichotomy of real, fake, present, future, fact, and fiction. This is a fake, well, actually, is a new store. It's like a fake brand, fake store in a new development to try to attract people to get into that building. And it's actually a fake supermarket. And sometimes people actually sit there to eat, which is kind of very weird. Recently, a sci-fi writer in China actually decided that fiction is not anymore. I mean, they cannot write anymore sci-fi, so they need a new genre that they call ultra unreal to kind of talk about how modern China is even more fictional than fiction itself. But I'm not interested in, like crazy things like flying cars and all that stuff. I'm interested in this type of thing, like the stuff that will fill the future, like the mundane objects, the plastic things that, they're going to be in Malmo supermarkets in 2020, which are anyway coming probably from this type of shops in places like Yiwu or Shenzhen. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people talk about fakes and talk about, oh my God, they're, fake objects. But actually, there's this concept of Shanzai, which is kind of copies of things that are actually better than the real ones. This is a miniaturized semi-Nokia phone with double SIM card and everlasting battery. It's amazing. And it's like €5. This is actually, some stuff is just too fucking good to be real. Like this is my favorite all-time recent discovery. It's like, so it's a, I mean, I don't know, what is it? What do you guys think? Yeah, so I'm gonna tell, so it's a bottle-shaped umbrella selfie stick with a Bluetooth bracelet to make pictures. And I mean, it's kind of a products made of byproducts. It's amazing. I challenge myself being that creative. I mean, who the fuck can think about that? But more than that, actually, there is this, which is like, they fucking revolutionize selfie stick and tripods. So if you flip around the umbrella, it becomes a tripod. Yeah, think about that, creative people. So actually, there is really interesting. I lost myself into studying like the sneaker market in China, and real and fake, the actual words are not enough anymore. People have 7 degrees of what is fake. There is like A-class, regular, grade. Anyway, it's great. And with different prices, they come from different places, and people are even like fighting. Which one is the best fake? Is it from Putian or from Dongguan? Who knows? Anyway. My recent discovery is actually this, which is like this new genre of videos that come from the world of e-commerce, which is basically videos created by people to show you that things are actually real. And so they try to figure out very different ways for you to show that it's like real, good quality products. And there is thousands of hours of these that you can watch online, and it's great. But anyway. So, said that, I think I'm going to show a couple of ways in which I try to bend this concept of fiction and reality through kind of products. Because at the end, I'm a product designer, so I kind of have to do stuff. I can't only buy shit online. So a lot of the things that I do is really looking at using real things, like very, very simple things to talk about the future. And I'm really, really fixated with simple stuff, like toaster plugs and Roomba. I really love Roombas. But so throughout the years, I've done a bunch of things, like I really tortured objects, like I make them connected. These were it was a service of toasters that they were very happy before, but then I connected them and they started to feel peer pressure, and then they start to, bitch online on Twitter, and then, they sell themselves. So I was doing this type of things. Then I also somehow build fans that give jobs to mechanical Turks. So when they don't know what to do, they actually just give a job online, and then people can decide, whether you want to have a person of, specific religion, education degree to control your fan. You might ask why, but, who knows? This kind of the future might be like that, So actually, recently we talked yesterday we talked a lot about technological biases, and I'm going to just show a project that is kind of talking about that. And we have this kind of problem of we believe in technology being objective, and that's kind of a problem because when a self-driving car hits you, that kind of hurts. And so we tried, being in China and being doing products, I think was really interesting to what if actually biases can be a feature rather than a problem. So what if we create transparently biased products? So actually the fact that an object might be, sustainable, racist, or whatever, is actually something that I buy into. And so, we created this kind of 3 power plugs, multi-plugs that are somehow representing, 3 different believing political systems. And we went all the way to, engineer the electrical system to kind of represent different political systems. And, so one has an election system, one has, it's Model T, you can figure out what it stands for. Anyway. They actually worked, which is kind of freaky. So this is just like a quick example of one of them. You also need cool music, or else. Oh, it's extremely zoomed in. Anyway, we actually design all the safe instructions and everything, and even at the code level, almost each of them had almost like a constitution. So we ended up writing constitution for plugs. That's what you end up doing when you do like this type of projects. So recently, as I said, I kind of been looking a little bit more into the food and into actually trying to talk about future through more, let's say, invasive thing than actual products. And together with a sensory designer and a chef, we actually try to look at the world of processed food, and it's also really, really ugly. So I actually don't research anything about food industry. It's horrible. There are cheese that have no cheese in it that are considered cheese. There's this thing called pink slime, which is fucking insane. So I try to map, degrees of realness, of chickenness, fishness, and figuring out what is like, where is real fish ending and where is real chicken ending. And we kind of did a study, and when you don't know what to do, you normally do a 2x2, which is very cool. But anyway, we looked at how, for instance, there is simulation of food, there is processed food, there is completely fake foods. What's interesting is that we did a couple of workshops with people where we asked them, all of these, what is a real food for you? And it turns out that, especially in China, like chicken breast is a very, very complicated life. It's really like no one is really certain whether it's food or not, which is pretty cool. So we decided to build like some sort of processed food that come from a very different logic. So they are fake foods, but they're not really done for like economical purposes, like saving money or destroying the planet. But they're actually done for ways for people to try something new. So we did this kind of almost chicken feet that are things shaped like chicken feet, and even when you're inside, there is like a fake bone. So it has this kind of weird feeling. But chicken feet, I don't eat them, but maybe it's going to be more sustainable. Who knows if we eat them. We also try to make silkworm caviar to make like very expensive, so basically instead of eating insects for cheap, you're going to eat them because they're really expensive. And actually my very favorite one is this non-fish bone-in fish, which is basically a fake bone for most of us white people to figure out how to eat bones with fish, which is apparently a gigantic problem in society. Anyway, so we even sold these, and we did. I'm probably going to ask Uber if we can put them on TripAdvisor, but we'll see. Maybe the shed wants to have them. So actually, this is the last project I want to talk about, which is also something about even a more immersive way of kind of changing or kind of playing with reality. And I'm not going to talk really. I mean, it's about VR, but it's not really about VR. It's about figuring out whether we can use this kind of fictional or virtual reality to actually look at reality in different ways. And so, as I do, we were thinking whether, what is this like to be a very, very stupid thing, like a fan? What do you do? What can you do? You can probably blow paper. And so can we create an entire experience about this? And so we actually, one of my secret dreams was like to put a Roomba in the head of someone, and that's kind of what we did. So we created this this installation, this kind of VR experience, which is called objective reality, where you can become a Roomba or a fan or a plug in a smart home. We even convinced Bruce Sterling to write stories that basically would talk about the point of view of these objects. And you can actually even download it on, if you have an Android phone, you can download the app and become a Roomba. But here is a snippet. Oh.
I am a vacuum cleaner. They say that I suck up dirt from the floor. That is true. But I clean, and therefore I am. I make an encyclopedia of the debris of life. A room like this one, this modern room in a modern home. This is an endless trap into which factories vomit their products, products which must be consumed. We are industrial products. We wear out. We die in here.
Yeah. So, so that's actually Bruce Sterling in his Roomba self, which is pretty amazing. So anyway, so we actually touring with this installation. We're trying to tour around the world to get other people to really, really enjoy being a Roomba. This is an example of, I think, it's weird. People really like to be things. Like I don't know, and it's funny when you observe them, for instance, some people really like to clean. Some people really like to make a mess, and someone just has some weird fucking ideas of like re-challenging, repositioning everything. So anyway, it's kind of funny. Actually, this is kind of the point I'm trying to make at the end, because I think it's really interesting. I really enjoy being here and talking to you guys, and because you kind of understand what I do, I hope. But I think, and also some of these things is going into museums and into exhibition, and I'm really happy. But I think there is a bit of a problem with this, because it's kind of like I really like to bring these futures in the world, like bringing fictions that are not deceiving, and maybe kind of using like products and simple things as a way to also talk about future stuff. And futures that are actually more hopeful. And I think there are a lot of people doing this. So there is people like working with government, now and I really like this quote from the Dubai Future Foundation head. It's like, you can actually go from speculation to policy in 9 months. So basically looking at using futures to, change nations, even if weird ones. And there are people like the Extrapolation Factory trying to, make everyone, be able to actually create futures. Or the pioneers of design fiction, which are in the Near Future Laboratory, that are kind of working with companies like IKEA or Amazon to figure out whether they can actually think about things before they build them. And I think maybe this is the problem. And I'm trying a weird experiment, which is basically I'm trying to work with I'm trying to convince a VC to open like a fictional company and kind of giving me the money to do things that are not this shit. This is an insult. This is a robotic coffee machine, which I find extremely insulting as an Italian person. Anyway, so just to conclude, I think this is like near my house in Shanghai, and I think it's kind of a weird thing, because this is a bit more the reality, I think, that we will have in the future, which is kind of a weird mix of, I don't really know when or where this is. It's a mix of East, West, future, present, and we're going to have more and more of this. We're going to have more like, mixes of virtual, real, human, non-human, and I think we just need to get used to this. We need to get used to the fact that, things are going to get weirder. And anyway, because, a lot of things happening around us are already kind of approximately real things. Thank you.